Okay, so section 1.5 is called the quadratic formula and the discriminant. Now, the discriminant is actually found inside of the quadratic formula. It's the equation inside of the square root, the b squared minus 4ac. They call that the discriminant because it discriminates between types of answers. Does it have no answers, one answer, or two answers? It can discriminate between those three options, okay? So the b squared minus 4ac is called the discriminant. We're going to talk about that later. For now, we're going to focus on the quadratic formula, which you guys, again, should be used to. How do I know some of you guys are used to this? One of you, I don't know if it was this class or the other class, actually used the quadratic formula to solve for some of the problems. So that means you guys have seen it. You've used it before, right? So but yeah, this is the quadratic formula, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, the hardest part about this formula, besides the fact that it's a big formula, is this negative b part in the front. Because if b is negative up here, then this sign will change the b value to a positive. So you guys got to pay attention to the numbers when you're plugging them in. Remember what I told you guys, when you plug in numbers, put parentheses around them so that you don't mess up the signs, right? You want to make sure that your values stay consistent. But we're going to be using this formula given a trinomial that's equal to 0. Remember how I told you guys the fact that it's equal to 0 is the most important thing. You got to move things over. Move things over until it says equal to 0. Once it says equal to 0, then you can factor, then you can solve. If it doesn't say equal to 0, you can't start off yet. You have to set it up first. Okay? So we're going to do the quadratic formula first, and then at the end of the lesson, we'll talk about the discriminant. Okay, discriminant is pretty easy to do. We're going to do like the harder of the two, but hopefully you guys don't find this to be difficult. Okay? Now, I am going to write the formula on the right side, but go ahead and write solve there and solve x squared plus 10x plus 24. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. You don't have to write that thing in green if you don't want to. I'm just leaving it as reference so I know what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay? Now, let's write down my ABCs. A is 1, B is 10, and C is 24, right? All I have to do is plug it into that formula and simplify, and then I'm done. You might need a calculator, you might not, it just kind of depends, but let's see. X is equal to negative B. B is 10, so I'm going to put negative 10 plus or minus the square root of B squared, so that's 10 squared, minus 4 times A, which is 1, times C, which is 24. All divided by 2 times A, so that's 2 times 1. The hardest thing about this formula, I know it's a big formula, okay? The hardest thing about this formula is keeping your numbers straight, being neat, okay? Because if you're messy, then mistakes happen, okay? So, x is equal to negative 10 plus or minus 10 squared, that's 100, minus 4 times 1 times 24. Again, this is where a calculator is nice. But 4 times 1 is 4, and 4 times 24, that's going to be 96. All that divided by 2. Okay? Well, let's simplify inside the square root. 100 minus 96, that's 4. So x is equal to negative 10 plus or minus the square root of 4 over 2. What's the square root of 4? We should know. That's 2. So, all right. X is equal to negative 10 plus or minus 2 over 2. I'm done. I just got to write down my answers. I have 2 solutions. One of the solutions is negative 10 plus 2 over 2. The other solution is negative 10 minus 2 over 2. Those are my 2 answers. So let me just solve them. X is equal to, what's negative 10 plus 2? Well, if I add negative 10 plus 2 over 2, I get negative 8 over 2. So my answer is negative 4. That's one answer, negative 4. Now what if I subtract negative 10 minus 2 over 2? Well, that's negative 12 over 2. So that's negative 6. Two solutions. I'll write them right here. X equal to negative 6 and negative 4. Notice you don't have to factor. You don't have to try to figure out, is it a difference of two squares or a perfect square trinomial? Or should I use the X method? Is it a common factor? You don't have to graph it to try to guess where the answers are. Okay? We use a formula. We plug the answers into the we plug the information into the formula, and the formula will spit out the answers. Okay? Yeah. So once you get to this point, add and subtract to find your solutions. Okay? Once you get to that point, add and subtract to get the solutions. Now, some people say, well, what if I can't add or subtract the numbers? What if it's like 2 plus or minus radical 3? Well, then you just leave it alone. You don't mess with it. Those will be your two answers. You only find the two exact answers if it's easy enough for you to calculate these numbers. If it's too hard, then just don't. Just put a circle around the whole thing. So we'll see right here. Let's see if this one does it. Are we okay, by the way, with this one? Just plugging in numbers, working it out, right? Yeah. So here we go. Solve 4x squared plus 5x minus 6 equal to 0. Just because the equation looks harder doesn't make it more difficult to do. Okay? It's still ABC. All right? So I'm going to put A, B, C. And in green, again, I'm going to write down the formula. That way we have it. So it's negative B plus or minus square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. Okay? I mean, the formula is back there. There's a poster of it. So let's go ahead and get started. X is equal to negative. Well, B is 5. So negative parenthesis 5 plus or minus square root of B squared. That's 5 squared minus 4 times A. Well, A is 4 times C is negative 6. All that is going to be divided by 2. 2 times A, which is 4. My bad, that's 2A. So we're dividing by 2A. So A is 4, so 2 times 4. All right, now we're going to clean this up. Like I said, this is the hard part. Okay, to me, that's the hard part coming up because you got to be careful. Minus of 5, so that's negative 5, plus or minus the square root of 5 squared, that's 25. Okay, negative 4 times 4 is negative 16. Negative 16 times a negative 6. So 16 times 6, what is that? We got 36. That's 96. It's positive 96 because it's a negative 4 times a 4 times a negative 6. So two negatives will eventually multiply. Okay? So it's 96, all divided by 8. Okay? So x is equal to negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 25 plus 96, 9, 10, 11, that's 121 over 8. What's the square root of 121? It's 11. 11. So x is equal to negative 5 plus or minus 11 over 8. Should I solve for two answers in this case, or should I just stop? I mean, can I add negative 5 plus 11? Yeah, I can subtract it by 11. This is easy enough to break down into both answers. So let's break them down into both answers, okay? So one of the answers will be negative 5 plus 11 over 8. The other one will be negative 5 minus 11 over 8. Okay? So we're going to have 2 of them. All right, negative 5 plus 11, that's 6. So x is equal to 6 over 8. I can reduce that by 2. So that's 3 over 4. Okay, the other answer, negative 5 minus 11, that's negative 16 over 8. And negative 16 divided by 8 is negative 2. So that's negative 2. Notice I'm not going to make a solution set. I'm just going to circle. And there you go. I'm done. Again, this is easy. It's just you got to be careful. Take your time. Don't rush through it, or else you're going to mess up a sign. And next thing you know, your answers aren't making any sense. Okay, just so you know, on Google, well, I don't think you guys would do it. You probably use PhotoMath or something, but you could go to Google, type in quadratic formula, and then it'll tell you like put in A, B, and C. You can literally just type in 4, 5, negative 6. It'll tell you your 2 answers. I encourage you to use that. I just encourage you not to abuse it, right? I tell all my classes, there's technology to help you, right? YouTube, there's PhotoMath and Mathways and whatever else there is. There's that one that sounds like Goth or something like that. I forgot what it's called. But I think that's what it's called, Goth Math or something like that. There's a couple apps out there. There's tons of websites. Go ahead and use them. Just don't abuse them, right? Like use it to help yourself. Make sure you're doing things right. Don't just use them to get homework done. Remember what I told you guys, I could care less if you get your homework done if you're not learning it, right? What's the purpose of copying all the stuff, but there's nothing in here, right? You got to get something in here. So, all right, let's do the last one, I think, and then we're going to do the discriminant, then we're done. So here's the last one. Now you're going to notice this one looks a little different, right? It's a little smaller. It's missing which term, A, B, or C? Which one? Not C, it's missing B. Remember, C is just a normal number. C is just a normal number, no letter. A is always next to the squared term. B is next to the term that has the first power. So the BX, right? There's no X there. There's an X squared, but no X. So the B is missing. So all I have is A and C. Okay? Again, I'm going to write down the formula just so we have it. X equal to negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. Here we go. X is equal to negative B. Well, there is no B, so negative 0 plus or minus the square root of B squared, that's 0 squared, minus 4 times A, which is 1, times C, which is 49, all over 2A, which is 2 times 1. Well, negative 0 doesn't exist. So X is equal to plus or minus. That's all that's left. 0 squared is 0. What's 4 times 49? Is that 196? But negative? Am I right on that? Yeah? Okay, thank you. Over 2. All right. Can I take the square root of negative 196? I can't. But what am I supposed to do when there's a negative inside a square root? I take it out and I write what letter? An I, right? So X is equal to plus or minus I square root of 196 over 2. What's the square root of a positive 196? It's not 10, and it's more than 10. It's less than 15. It's 14. Okay? So X is equal to plus or minus 14I over 2. Well, what's 14 divided by 2? Oh, we got 7, right? So this is plus or minus 7I. And stop right there. You don't have to do any more. Those are your 2 solutions. They're imaginary. They're not real. Okay? They're not part of the real numbers. They're imaginary numbers. Sometimes you get some weird answers. Just circle the whole thing if you're not sure. If the answer came out to like 2 plus or minus square root of 3, then just leave it like that. You don't have to write it down as decimals. Okay? All right. Are we okay with this? We feel a little better than the graphing, right? Graphing was a pain. I know it is. Even as a teacher, it's not my favorite subject to teach because I know it's not super exciting, right? But I think this is better. It's quicker. You don't have to worry about so much, like so many little steps. You just got to plug things in and then make sure that you solve and you're done. Okay. Now let's move on to this next part. So I think we'll be able to be done before 20 minutes. We talked about the discriminant earlier, right? I told you the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. Okay, just figuring that little piece out is actually pretty important. B squared minus 4ac. The discriminant can tell you how many solutions will exist. Okay, how will it tell you that? Well, if you do the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, and the answer comes out to 0, that means there's one solution. What's the solution? Well, I don't know. I got to put it into the whole formula. But I know there's one, though. I know there's one. If I plug it into the formula and the answer is less than 0, so it comes out to like a negative 25 or a negative 13, something like that, something negative, then I know that there's no real solutions. There's actually 2 imaginary. I'm going to put right here 2 imaginary. There's 2 of them, two with i's, just like we just saw in the previous example, plus or minus 7i, right? It's a positive 7i, a negative 7i. So it's going to have 2 imaginary. If you plug it into the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, and your answer comes out to a positive number, so you get like a 1 or a 15 or a 100, then that means you're going to have 2 solutions. Okay? So again, will it tell me what the solutions are? No, but it will tell me how many I'm looking for. Okay? So if it's equal to 0, 1 solution. If it's less than 0, no solutions, or you can say 2 imaginary, right? But no reals. And if it's greater than 0, 2 solutions. Okay, so either 0, 1, or 2. That's what we're looking for. Okay, so we're going to do 2. By the way, notice these have all been homework problems, right? Like this was number 9. This one was number 5. This one was number 1. All of these are going to be homework problems. So here's number 14 and 16. Find the value of the discriminant. Describe the number of roots. So I'm just saying you're going to get b squared minus 4ac, and you're going to tell me what number pops up from that answer. And then whatever the number is, you're going to tell me, does that mean that there's no answers, 1 answer, or 2 answers? Okay? Now remember, here's my ABC right here, A, B, C. So let's plug it in. B squared, that's going to be 3 squared minus 4 times A, which is 4, times C, which is negative 12. So let's see, 3 squared, that's 9. Negative 4 times 4 is negative 16, and negative 16 times 12 is more than 160. Anybody have that? I can do it, but maybe somebody has a calculator out there already. Yeah, let's see. What did I say? 16 times 12, right? 192. And notice it's positive because it's a negative 4 times 4 times a negative 12. So it becomes positive. 9 plus 192, that's 201. So when they say, what's the value of the discriminant? Here's the value of the discriminant. What does that mean? How many answers if it's a 201? Is that greater than 0, less than 0, or equal to 0? 200. It's greater. What does it mean when it's greater? So look back at the notes you wrote. If it's greater than 0, 2 solutions. So I'm going to write 2 solutions. And that's it. I'm done. I don't have to figure out what the solutions are. I just need to know how many. Pretty easy. Let's do it one more time. Number 16. Which letter is missing, A, B, or C in this case? C is missing because C is just the number, right? Like a 5, a negative 12. There's no just a number on the left side. There's an x squared and an x. That's my A and my B. C is 0, okay? So B squared minus 4AC is equal to, let's see, B squared. So that's going to be negative 16 squared. minus 4 times A, that's 32, times C, that's 0. Well, negative 16 squared, that's 256, minus 4 times 32 times 0, that's 0. Here's my value of the discriminant. How many solutions do I have? 2. Thank you. 2 solutions. Now, if the answer would have come out to negative 256, what would I say? I would say 2 imaginary or no solutions. What if it came out to 0? 1 solution. Okay? So once you figure out your answer for the discriminant, then go back to that list and figure out, is it bigger than, less than, or equal to 0? Which one is it? Okay? And that'll be your answer. 2 solutions, 1 solution, no solutions. Okay? So that's it. I went over by a minute. But let me give you guys your homework, okay?